forever chemicals in makeup. I mean, I don't know what that means, but that does not sound good. This is a report from the BBC, and there's a couple of big brands that are caught up in this, including Inglot, Revolution, and Urban Decay. Let's discuss. So this was just published a couple of hours ago, but this is kind of quite breaking. So these forever chemicals are actually pollutants, and they're known as PFAs, which stands for poly and perfluoroalkyl substances. And apparently they're resistant to oil and water, which is part of what makes them so valuable in the makeup industry, which of course is like, oh, well, of course they would use them. Now, Urban Decay's owner, which is L'Oreal, and Revolution have both told the BBC that they're phasing out the chemicals. But why on earth would you want to phase out these chemicals if they're resistant to all of these things? They apparently help to make makeup last longer, improve the finish, preserve the colour of eyeshadows and lipsticks. But here's the issues, right? There are environmental and there are health impacts. Apparently, our health impacts include high levels of exposure have been associated with cancer, birth defects, and thyroid issues. I mean, I have an underactive thyroid, so there you go. But they have found that these can also build up in the environment, and they have been detected in human blood at this point. So that's great. Feel free, by the way, to pause at any point to read this. Apparently, some of the studies that have looked at this in animals and labs have found that it's kind of linked to birth defects, damaged livers, and newborn deaths. So generally not great. At the moment, it isn't banned in the UK, but apparently on Friday, Germany, along with 4 other European nations, are going to submit a proposal to the EU to ban the manufacture and the use of PFAs because of its accumulation and exposure towards humans. I mean, it's a long-term toxic effect. This is pretty massive, and it's being used across several places, like I said, Revolution, Inglot, and Urban Decay. So what are the palettes that we actually have to be worried about? What we have seen in terms of Revolution includes the Real Love High Key Shadow Palette, the Revolution Powder Shadow Palette 90s Baby, the I Heart Revolution Mini Patch Palette, Fried Egg Fred. When it comes to Urban Decay, it's the Naked Palettes 2 and 3 and the Smoked Palette. I have all 3 of those, kind of heartbreaking. Inglot then and their Moira Higgins collaboration, the Beautiful Storm eyeshadow palette has been linked with this. Inglot's Evening Kiss eyeshadow palette and their Complexion Perfection Essentials palette in Deep. NGOs are also getting involved and basically saying we need to have a complete ban on these because this is also impacting things like rivers. That's right, like some of the marine animals are being impacted by this. So what are they actually saying? L'Oreal says that they are having a phase-out plan and substitution plans. Revolution say that they fully comply with regulations and they're planning to phase them out. Meanwhile, Inglot said nothing. What do you think?